From Channel 4, this is an Eyewitness Sports Special. Eye on the Tigers pregame coverage. Presented by Acme Oyster House.
It's been exactly 300 days since Alabama shut out LSU in the BCS championship game. 300 days since the Crimson Tide methodically wore down the Tiger offense, allowing them to cross midfield just once. 300 days since LSU's former coach hoisted the crystal football wearing red in the same spot he raised the prize for the Tigers 8 years earlier. 300 days is a long time for players, and perhaps even longer for fans, to let a devastating loss fester, building up inside so much it makes your blood boil. In the Battle of Thermopylae in the fall of 480 BC, Leonidas led 300 Spartans, along with a few thousand others, into battle, overmatched by a Persian army estimated at nearly 200,000. Perhaps that's what being a double-digit underdog at home was like in ancient times. Leonidas and his Spartans bravely slayed more than 20,000 of the enemy before a traitor helped the mighty Persians find a better position to fight. The Spartans, knowing they were outflanked, made one final stand, but the 300 never surrendered their home soil. Now, 300 days later, LSU finally has an opportunity to wash clean the bitter memory of January 9th. The Tigers can't take away Alabama's national championship, but have the chance to keep hope alive for their own championship this season with a win tonight. A Bama win would virtually clinch a trip to Atlanta for the Tide. A trip to Miami and a BCS title game berth would be on the horizon. Will the Crimson Tide surge on, or will they run into a band of Spartans disguised as Tigers, determined to stand their ground in Death Valley? LSU, Alabama, the latest chapter, 300 days later.
And tonight, it begins again. Tiger Stadium, Death Valley, Saturday night. You're looking above the fray on what is a perfect night for football, and welcome to Eyewitness, Eye on LSU Tigers.
The student section filled up first. We have plenty of fans outside still tailgating. The last of those fans will be trickling in the next hour. Tiger Stadium is filling up.
But a little while ago, the combatants arrived. LSU, the Tigers, making their arrival here to Tiger Stadium, 5th ranked in the country. When they played last year in the regular season, they were number 1, 7-1 on the year, and ready for Bama again.
Nick Saban and his now number 1 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide arrived here earlier. Saban got quite a greeting from the student section. And Saban 1-1 in games played here in Tiger Stadium.
And welcome inside of Tiger Stadium, Doug Mouton, sports director, along with Mike Haas. Wow, something has to give tonight, Doug. LSU has not lost in this place since 2009. A.J. McCarron, the quarterback for Bama, has never lost outside of Alabama. He is 10-0.
It is. LSU does have 2 significant advantages tonight. One, Les Miles had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. Nick Saban had 1, unlike the BCS championship game. And 2, this place, Tiger Stadium at night, is an absolute advantage for LSU.
They've had a couple of weeks to prepare, a couple of weeks to get healthy. That's been crucial on that offensive line, and they have been primed. It's a 7 o'clock kickoff right here on CBS. It took us about an hour just to get through the crowd, to get down Nicholson Lane, so they are ready for tonight.
Absolutely. We've got a lot of good stuff for you planned up as we lead up to 7 o'clock when CBS takes off. We've got Brian Salmon in New Orleans standing by, Monica Hernandez with all the tailgating reaction from here in Baton Rouge. But we'll start with Juan Kincaid outside the stadium. Juan?
All right, Doug and Mike, thank you very much. You know, LSU fans, as you can see, still filing in behind me. 92,000 plus expected, a sellout crowd inside of Tiger Stadium. These LSU fans certainly have not forgotten about what happened in the national championship game, and they believe their team can get a win tonight against top-ranked Alabama.
A heartache.
The hopes and dreams that we had for last season and what we wanted to accomplish, there were some things that we left out there.
That definitely hurt. You can compare it to being a wound. If we want to get back to where we were last year, you got to go through Alabama to do it.
From day one, game one.
Number 38, Kenny Hilliard
These Tigers have been on a mission. They've been climbing the mountain, building towards this day.
All the talking and stuff been going on, but the game is finally here.
This is the big one.
The big one that got away last year comes back around again, with the Tigers vowing to right the wrongs of a season ago. Their highly anticipated tilt with top-ranked Alabama, some believe, will be a one-sided affair, all Bama. But Tiger players don't mind being the underdogs. They're embracing the idea of them being an afterthought. In their city, in their stadium on Saturday night. It's been their rallying cry.
Last year we went to Bama, you know, we had a target on our back. We was #1. Now they're coming in to our home stadium, you know, with the #1 ranking on them. So I feel like the pressure is more on them. We still got to play the game.
When #1 comes into Baton Rouge, usually you're the underdog, and that's how it is for us. You know, they're the best team in the nation right now, and the way that they're playing, they certainly deserve it. So for us, you know, we got to play up to their level.
And therein lies the big unknown. Can LSU play up to Alabama's level, which up to this point has been pretty flawless and dominating? Bama doesn't make offensive mistakes. Their quarterback hasn't thrown a pick. Their skill players find the end zone on the regular. And their defense is as unforgiving as they come. At least LSU can match the Tide D, big play for big play. It's why the Tigers are 7-1.
You definitely have a face of defense like ours.
Neither is LSU's offense. In fact, against less heralded defenses like Auburn's and South Carolina's, the Tigers have struggled to move the ball. Offensive struggles have been a constant theme this season and a source of frustration for Tiger fans. And all eyes have turned to quarterback Zach Mettenberger as the problem. But head coach Les Miles has never wavered in his support for the junior quarterback. It's not his style. Think Ryan Perrilloux and Jordan Jefferson. He stuck with them to the end. And with Mettenberger, Miles is standing pat. With the biggest game of the year set to kick off tonight, Miles is vowing to put his quarterback and his team in a better position to beat the Tide.
We're really going to throw the football better. And the opportunity to throw the football is something that you know, we're going to have to defeat press coverage, and we're going to have to defeat a quality zone coverage and zone drops, and you know, and get open.
Things the Tigers couldn't do or wouldn't do in the national championship game. Alabama stacked the line, dared the Tigers to be aggressive, creative, think outside the box. They couldn't, wouldn't, and didn't. Miles says he won't let that happen again, especially since he knows that Bama's approach probably won't change.
If I was them, I think I would use the same game plan. It certainly worked once. I can't imagine that they'd want to, you know, change it much.
I'm going to have a really good game against Alabama for us to win.
Mettenberger has to complete passes, make good decisions with the ball. It won't be easy. Bama will give him looks he's never seen before, but he'll need to find a way. Yes, the ground game will help. Jeremy Hill, Michael Ford, Kenny Hilliard, Spencer Ware, they figure to get their opportunities. But that's what Bama will be waiting for. Mettenberger can make their job easier, and he knows it.
When they give us opportunities to take some shots and to throw the ball, you know, I got to put the ball in the money.
It sounds simple to say that this game rests on the shoulders of one player. It's almost unfair. But we know LSU's defense will come to play. We know special teams will be special. But again, the great unknown is what the offense will do, what Zach Mettenberger will do. He'll certainly have the best backdrop.
Our team will look forward to playing in this stadium. I can tell you that it's there's no place like it.
It's, as Miles recently claimed, where opponents' dreams come to die. It's also where SEC and national title hopes can find life again. But LSU has to rise to the occasion.
Anytime that you play the game of football and you're going against the best team in the nation, you know, there's a certain sense of, you know, you got to make sure that you play your best game.
This is why you play football. It's big games like this, and if you want to get to where you want to be in January, these are the games you have to win to get there.
We know that Tiger Stadium a difficult place for opposing teams to play. LSU doesn't lose here, at least not lately. 22 straight games, currently the nation's longest winning streak right now. 2009, though, the last time they lost inside Tiger Stadium, of course, coming to Florida 13-3. Les Miles nearly perfect in Death Valley at nighttime, 36-1 since he came on board with the Tigers back in 2005. So Mike and Doug, if you look at the odds, you got to say it's a game that LSU wins, maybe not handily, but they win it regardless because they're playing in Tiger Stadium. Everything's in place for them to get a win, but we shall see. Much more from outside the stadium in just a bit. Doug and Mike, back to you.
We are 58 minutes away from
the clock is under an hour.
It's under an hour. The atmosphere in Tiger Stadium electric right now. We got a lot of stuff coming up for you leading up to 7 o'clock, which is when CBS takes over the broadcast. First of all, we took the trip to Tuscaloosa this week. Behind enemy lines, we will hear from Nick Saban, from quarterback A.J. McCarron. We'll look at it from the Crimson Tide standpoint. Plus, we'll hear from Baton Rouge Advocate writer Les East, one of the best writers covering LSU. We'll hear from him. Juan Kincaid will catch up with Les for some LSU analysis outside.
Also, the players can't talk about the distractions and the BCS game and the revenge that the players and the fans want. We've talked to fans about getting that bad taste in their mouth post January 9th. Also, again, more distractions that this team has had to deal with this past week. We'll talk about that as well.
And Monica Hernandez will have a taste of tailgating. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an LSU game. The LSU-Alabama game turns it up a notch. A tremendous atmosphere inside of Tiger Stadium.
When they played last year in the regular season, November of 2011, LSU won 9-6, and you got to believe this Tiger team, heavy underdogs here at home, would take anything into the fourth quarter to be close because they've been in that situation this year. Bama has not. That's a little edge to LSU.
Alabama's schedule has not been rough yet. They have not played Florida or Georgia this year. They beat Michigan, yes. They still haven't played A&M. They haven't seen a test like LSU. Now, Nick Saban and Les Miles have played each other 6 times in their current jobs, each guy 3-3. Throughout the course of the next 45 minutes or so, we'll catch up with some of those key moments from those earlier matchups starting in 2007. Our first key play comes courtesy of native New Orleanian and St. Aug star Chad Jones. In Saban's first year at Alabama back in 2007, the freshman standout made the play of the game on a fourth-quarter blitz, stripping John Parker Wilson of the ball, which the Tigers would recover inside the 5-yard line. Jacob Hester's goal line plunge gave the Tigers a 7-point win in Tuscaloosa. LSU won round 1, 41-34.
Under 53 minutes until kickoff for LSU Alabama. The Tiger fans just erupted when LSU came out, and the Boo Birds came out when Alabama is now out on the field. Both teams are now out on the field getting ready.
And it's amazing how loud Tiger Stadium is on the field, and it's only half full.
Right.
And you could hear the roar when LSU came running out. What's interesting, Mike, are the personalities of these two teams. When you interview LSU guys, Barkevius Mingo, Sam Montgomery, they are always all smiles. You can tell they feed off Les Miles' personality. You feel nothing but fun coming from the LSU players. It's been that way since Les Miles was here. We took the trip to Tuscaloosa this week, and the exact opposite in Alabama, and it really is interesting. The Crimson Tide and their quarterback, their coach, all business. Obviously, the approaches work on both sides. The approach in Alabama has the Crimson Tide #1 again. After doing this last January, there was supposed to be some drop-off at Alabama. The talent level just wouldn't be the same, in theory. But so far this year, it has been. A background player for much of last year, junior quarterback A.J. McCarron is now the focal point of the Crimson Tide offense. The BCS title game was his coming out party, although he doesn't see it that way.
I don't think it did anything at all. I felt like I played that way all year long. From my point of view, I felt like we just did a really good job of mixing up pass and run that game and kept them off balance.
Last year, the offense was all about All-American running back Trent Richardson until that title game. After the national championship, Trent Richardson and 3 other Crimson Tide players were taken in the first round of the NFL draft, the most of any school. 8 Crimson Tide players were drafted altogether, the most of any school, and 7 other Alabama players signed NFL free agent contracts. But even without those 15 NFL caliber players, a year later, Nick Saban has his Crimson Tide #1 again.
Coach Saban's here for a reason. He knows what he's doing.
McCarron has turned his game up a notch this year. He leads the SEC in quarterback efficiency with, get this, 18 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
That's what I just try to do every time I go out there, every down, take care of the ball. do my job to the best of my ability.
Taking care of the ball is something LSU's Zach Mettenberger hasn't done nearly as well, and he now faces an Alabama defense that's #1 in the conference in total defense and scoring defense, first in turnover ratio and interceptions.
They do similar things that they did last year, but with him they have more of a big arm quarterback. They can throw the ball down the field than they did last year.
I think he's got real arm talent, and they made plays, and I think that everybody strives for consistency, and I think they're very capable of being a very, very explosive passing team, and we're going to have to do a good job in the back end to control that, and we're going to have to generate ways to get pressure to affect the quarterback, no doubt.
The same goes when LSU's on defense.
Blocking these guys will be most important in this game because their pressure package and their ability to execute and rush has been a problem for some teams, and it's been a problem for us at times in the past, and we need to do a good job in that area.
But when asked about LSU's speed rushers, Alabama's quarterback sounded unimpressed.
Everybody in the SEC is fast. It doesn't really matter what team.
McCarron was all business this week. So was his coach.
You guys don't do it again. 24-23.
It's the Alabama way. And in 5 seasons in Tuscaloosa, Nick Saban has 2 crystal footballs. And a win tonight puts him clearly on the path to #3. McCarron has been terrific, but Alabama, make no mistake about it, has won with their defense. As we said, #1 in the SEC in rushing defense, #1 in the SEC in passing defense, #1 in the SEC in scoring defense, #1 in the SEC in total defense. Alabama giving up just 8 points a game. And when the quarterback doesn't turn it over, it's a recipe that has Alabama #1. Now, to get the Tide perspective from Tuscaloosa, we caught up with the sports editor of the Alabama student newspaper for the Alabama side. Joined now by Mark Burnett, who's the editor of the student newspaper here, the Crimson White. First of all, Alabama, 15 guys go to the NFL. Honestly, did you think they would be this good this year?
On defense, no, I didn't. I mean, it was one of those things where everybody felt like they could have some pieces on the defensive side of the ball. A lot of people thought that would be the question mark, but the secondaries kind of stepped up at the linebackers. Everybody's just stepping into place, and everybody's just like, it's reloading. It's that recruiting of Nick Saban really showing off.
Unlike last year where you had the spectacular linebackers, 6 guys drafted off the defense, the linebackers sort of, everything else went around those 2 guys. This year it's been more of a total mix. The personality of this defense, how is it different than last year?
Well, I think this year, like you said, is like a mix of guys. There's no 1 or 2 guys who kind of stand out. It's like a blend of everybody. You got the guys on the defensive line like a Jesse Williams. You got the linebackers like a C.J. Mosley, and you got D. Miller. I guess those would be the standouts. But those guys aren't household names like a Dante Hightower or Dre Kirkpatrick are. But this year, everybody kind of knows their role. You got the shutdown corners, you got the run stoppers, you got the linebackers who drop back in coverage. So everybody kind of knows their role, and everybody's just doing what it takes to do to get it done.
And on the offensive side, A.J. McCarron, his coming out party was the national championship game last year. This year, #1 in the SEC in quarterback efficiency. He's been terrific all year, mostly not giving up the ball, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think 258 passes, no interceptions, 18 touchdowns. He's on pace right now to break numerous single-season passing records. So, I mean, this guy's really talented, and it's only 8 games in, so just imagine what he's going to do. If he has a big game this weekend against LSU, hey, that Heisman stock just keeps going up.
And it's a guy who wasn't the man going into the national championship game last year. Has there been a difference in him that you've seen since that game? Because that's a game that Nick Saban put all the eggs in his basket, and he responded in a big way.
I think last year leading up to that game, they were kind of winning a little bit in spite of him, and then obviously you saw him come out in the national championship game and kind of just tear up that LSU defense. But this year, he's the guy. I mean, it's clear and cut. He's the guy. He's out there finding his receivers, not turning the ball over. He's leading the huddle, all the offensive linemen, the receiving corps. Everybody knows that it's pretty much his team, you know, as far as the coaching staff goes, and everybody pretty much knows that A.J. McCarron's a real leader out there.
All right, talk about on both sides of the ball. How do you see this one going Saturday night?
I think it's going to be a very physical matchup again. I think Alabama has the edge just because they're more balanced offensively. I think LSU's really going to struggle to score, and I think I'm going to say Alabama pulls it out 24-6.
Alabama pulls it out 24-6. That's not pulls it out. That's a little bigger than pulls it out, but that's the Alabama perspective. Thanks, Mark.
All right.
Alabama's got 5 guys right now that could go in the first round of the draft, but LSU's got tremendous talent too. Sam Montgomery, Barkevius Mingo, and Eric Reed could all go in the first 10 picks of the draft. Tremendous talent, obviously, in this game.
Tigers are coming there, heading into the locker room. You can see the crowd's going crazy. It's a big weekend, not just for football, but for golf, tennis, swimming. Every LSU sport has their key recruit on the sidelines tonight.
Oh, yeah.
This is a big game. We're back after the break. We look back again at Miles Saban's through the years. There's 2008.
Flashing back to 2008, the key play in this one is one Tiger fans won't want to see. After LSU blocked a Bama field goal at the end of regulation to send the game to overtime, Jarrett Lee's overthrown end zone pass ended up in the arms of Rashad Johnson for his 3rd pick of the game, and the Tide scored on a John Parker Wilson sneak to claim the 27-21 victory.
Remains undefeated.
The emotions and the ultimate high of 13 straight wins.
Jefferson. Interception, threw it away.
Erased in a few hours on a one-sided January night in the Superdome.
Bama is in business again.
It does leave a bad taste in my mouth. I was hoping that we walked away with the win. It was in our house, and we should have walked away with the win. So I'm hoping that on Saturday we can get our revenge back.
The players can't talk about revenge. The fans, they well remember the Bama pounding ending what was an unbelievable, unblemished season.
We had a great season last year, but I think it's still kind of overshadowed by that. People don't even think about all the games that we won. They just think about that one loss.
This is Eric Reed's takeaway interception in November of last year when LSU beat Bama 9-6 on the road. Tiger fans like to talk about that game. The national championship, not so much.
I don't really want to talk about it.
It's that bad?
It is that bad, but it doesn't matter because we're going to start with a clean slate, and this time we're going to win.
And doing so will go a long way to forgetting the lost title while strengthening hopes of another. A couple of LSU players did admit that they circled on their calendars November 3rd. It is a big day, not just because it's my wife's birthday, but it is a big game. But it gives the fans that really get that game, the BCS game, gone.
Yeah, and we see the student section behind us. It's been full for an hour and a half now. The rest of the stadium, I'd say about 2/3 full, filling up quickly, loud here on the field. Now, we heard the perspective from Tuscaloosa. Juan Kincaid is outside with him, one of the most insightful writers who cover LSU from Baton Rouge. Juan's out there with Les East. Juan?
Hi there, Doug. Once again, out here with Les East. He's a writer for the Baton Rouge Advocate. He covers the LSU Tigers on a daily basis. Les, it's interesting. LSU's ranked 5th in the country, Bama number 1, but yet LSU giving very little respect in this game, and almost a double-digit underdog for the entire week. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think so. This is probably the biggest they've been an underdog in this stadium in about 10 years. But Alabama has not been tested by anyone to this date, but this will be by far the best team Alabama's played.
Obviously, one of the keys to this game, maybe the biggest key for LSU, is how Zach Mettenberger can play in this game. Hasn't been impressive all season long. We know Alabama's going to throw the kitchen sink in him. How much better does he have to play? Unless Miles has basically vowed they will throw the ball down the field, but it begins with Zach, doesn't it?
It does. He has to have definitely the best game he's had all year, but the pass protection has to be the best it's been all year, and they can't max protect all the time. And the receivers have to have the best game they've had all year. It's a lot.
In the national championship game, Alabama stacked the line. Expect to see that again?
I think so. They were geared up to stop the option in the championship game. Here they're gearing up to stop a more conventional run unless Les Miles has something up his sleeve.
On the other side of the ball, getting to A.J. McCarron. Teams have gotten there, no turnovers on him. Barkevius Mingo, those guys have to get some pressure on him tonight.
Yeah, and if LSU can get to him with their front four, that'll be huge. They're going to get to him one way or another, but if they have to blitz to do it, it'll make it a little bit harder.
Quickly, your prediction and why?
I picked Alabama 20-10 in the morning paper because they've been the better team thus far, but this is the type of game where a Les Miles team rises up without any explanation and just finds a way to win. So it wouldn't surprise me if LSU won.
Wouldn't surprise anyone. Make a lot of people here happy. Les, thank you very much. Want to take it back inside the stadium with Doug and Mike. Guys?
All right, thanks, Juan. It is quite an atmosphere. We are 38 minutes from kickoff. CBS takes it at 7 o'clock. Vern Lundquist, Gary Danielson, the best in the business. We'll hear from them in a few minutes.
We want to give you a little flavor of the game because these fans have been here all day. ESPN's college football been here since early this morning. So let's just say they're primed and ready, as well as the Tiger Band, the traditional move into the stadium.
In 2009, a talented LSU team stood in the way of Alabama's path to its first national championship since 1992. Our key play in this game is one that didn't happen thanks to the review booth. With the Tigers trailing by 6 in the fourth quarter, Patrick Peterson appeared to have picked off a Greg McElroy pass, which would have given LSU great field position and momentum. The refs on the field ruled it an incompletion, and the replay official did not see enough evidence to overturn the call. Bama kept the ball and the lead en route to a 24-15 win.
Welcome back to Tiger Stadium. They are still filing in here. It's a tailgate. It's always a tailgate. Monica Hernandez, she's been covering that part of the story. Well, you had the good story today, haven't you?
I had the plum assignment today, and it was really amazing. I mean, ever since early this morning, people have been tailgating since 8 o'clock last night. It's incredible, and they are going strong. You can see just how packed it is behind me as people make their way into Tiger Stadium for the game. And like I said, many of them have been gearing up for hours. With the sounds of cheering, the smells of barbecue, and purple and gold galore, it can only be game day in Tiger territory.
I've been out here since yesterday at about 8 o'clock at night.
For fans like Brett Tamaray, getting ready for what some call the game of the year is an all-day affair. Though the Tigers are the underdog, Tamaray is keeping the faith.
We beat them last year at their home. I know we can beat them here, at our home.
Some fans say the rivalry runs even deeper since Alabama snagged the national championship in the Superdome in January, ending a perfect season for LSU. And Tiger fans are making sure to show Alabama whose turf they're on today.
Just don't cry as much this year as y'all did last year.
But the crowd wasn't all purple and gold. Bama fans are showing their support too.
I expect us to beat their tails.
This mother and daughter from Alabama become rivals on game day.
I'm a senior and I go to LSU for 4 years. And we always go to Alabama, either LSU, and we're always competing against each other, like bickering back and forth. It's crazy.
And as the teams get closer to kickoff, fans say half the fun is what happens before the game, a reason for people across the state to come together and cheer on their team.
It's, the pride in our school that, our fans are welcoming. I mean, we've got a couple of Alabama fans here. We love it. We welcome everybody. It's all fun, It's just great. Good people.
Bama has had a perfect season so far, and of course, LSU is hoping that changes tonight. We'll have to wait and see what happens during the game. Reporting live from Tiger Stadium, Monica Hernandez, Eyewitness News. Doug and Mike.
All right, thank you, Monica. And people say, where's this game going to be won? You look at LSU, they are 47% inside the red zone with 4 turnovers, 47%. Flip the numbers. Bama's 74% touchdowns inside the red zone. 3 out of every 4 times they get in the red zone, that's a touchdown. That's a recipe that's tough for LSU.
Clearly, Zach Mettenberger is going to have to be a lot better. We talked to Gary Danielson about Mettenberger a little later. We'll have that. But first, we talked to Vern Lundquist, the CBS broadcast crew, of course, Vern, Gary, Tracy Wolfson. They're as good as it gets. Nobody makes college football more fun than Vern Lundquist. He just has a way about him where it feels like a big event, feels like fun. He loves being here. We caught up with him earlier. Joined now by the man who's the best in the business, Vern Lundquist. First of all, talk about coming to Tiger Stadium. There is something special about this place, isn't there?
Well, the first game I got to do here, Doug, was 07, the Florida LSU game. And I've told several people this week who've asked about it. During the timeout in the third quarter, we were told that they were about to announce the USC-Stanford score, and so Gary and I took our headsets off. And I know about the earthquake game. I wasn't here for that, but if that thing didn't register on the Richter scale, I've never heard a crowd louder than that, because that result opened the door for LSU. And then, of course, they had to come back 5 first downs on fourth down 5 times. And so, this is pretty special here.
2 top 5 teams at night. This one has all the makings of something special. Talk about how you're looking at this one, how you look at a night game differently, the night game here. This one has all the makings, doesn't it?
Yeah, and, I've been at it a couple of years. Just a couple. And if this one doesn't get you excited, nothing will. I mean, those of us who are privileged enough to do what I do for a living live for moments like this. And boy, if I ever don't get energized by a game like this, I'm climbing out of the elevator and saying, see you down the road. I expect a very close game. Yes, we're all aware that LSU has struggled offensively, but they've got a great defense, and maybe, who knows, maybe this is the game where Zach Mettenberger brings it all together, and now he's going to have to do it against a very, very good defensive team from Alabama, but I'd be shocked. I don't think we're going to get 9-6 again, but I also don't think we're going to get 51-44.
No. Last question, is it any advantage to LSU that Nick Saban only got a week to get ready for this one?
Huge, I think. And all you need to do is go back to the BCS championship game, because if you give him a month or 2 weeks, he's pretty good at that. And I think, and conversely, I think it's a big advantage for LSU to have the open week before this game. And then this is stating the obvious, which is unfortunately what a lot of us do a lot. But, see, it makes myself cough. There is no more decided home field advantage than Tiger Stadium on Saturday night. So for all of those reasons, I think we're going to have a heck of a game.
And we talked to Gary Danielson earlier, some good stuff on Zach Mettenberger. Mettenberger, really a huge key tonight.
Yeah, because Bama's going to come in and stack the line. They're going to put 8, 9 in the box and say, beat us. Beat us.
That's what everyone's done against LSU.
So we'll have to wait and see. Again, let's look back at more of Saban against Miles. Our eyewitness, Eye on the Tigers, continues after the break. 28 minutes until kickoff. Stay with us.
Les Miles always seems to have a bag of tricks, and in 2010, he pulled it out in crunch time. Facing a 4th and 1 in Bama territory, Miles called for a simple toss, which turned into a reverse by D'Angelo Peterson, who had nothing but empty space in front of him. Peterson was knocked out of bounds inside the 5, but LSU would punch it in a few plays later, going on to win 24-21.
The LSU band, the LSU Golden Girls making their way onto the field for their
You know what's coming.
Yeah, for their pregame. Oh, and the stands are now about 90% full. It is loud on the field, an electric atmosphere. 2 top 5 teams. Doesn't get any better than this.
We've talked about the Bama defense. Let's talk about LSU's defense. Brian Salmon joins us from New Orleans with more on that. Brian?
All right, thanks, Mike and Doug, and welcome back to the Eyewitness Studios. Now, the matchup between the Tigers and the Crimson Tide is always a physical game that comes down to the basics in football, blocking and tackling. Les Miles hopes his group of Tigers will tackle like they did in Game 1 last season, and they're facing a Bama offense that's hitting on all cylinders.
We pride ourselves on great defense, and that great D is what won the Tigers the first matchup in the 2011 regular season game of the year. A stingy bunch, holding Bama to 2 field goals, 2 turnovers, in a 9-6 win. Saturday, the Bayou Bengals will need a Herculean effort to shut down a much-improved Alabama offense, led by A.J. McCarron, a quarterback with no picks, and a Crimson red-hot offense that hasn't scored less than 33 points in any game this season.
You can't let him get comfortable in the pocket and let him get in the rhythm of passing the ball, because as you see, once you get in the rhythm, it's kind of hard to get him off beat.
McCarron has certainly been more on beat than a metronome, tossing 18 touchdowns, but Bama has faced just one top 25 opponent this season, and A.J. hasn't danced with an LSU caliber D thus far.
Definitely not. He definitely haven't faced a defense like ours.
A defense with size and speed that'll need to be saber-tooth sharp.
Every week we're going to have to count on our front seven to put some pressure on them and hopefully get them to make a bad throw or two and try and get a turnover.
LSU will count on Barkevius Mingo and his cat-like quickness to add to his 3 sacks, and the beastly Sam Montgomery to get close enough to know what deodorant McCarron is wearing.
We got to keep them out of the end zone, force them to kick some field goals, and if we can do better than that and force them to get some 3 and outs, that would be great.
And it would likely be an LSU victory, the team's greatest chance at an upset, showing up huge on defense while hoping the stars and moons align on offense to overcome their near double-digit underdog status.
Now, Alabama's offense is so good the Tide hasn't trailed the entire season. Now, the Tigers hope to change that come 7 p.m. Now, still to come in our Eye on the Tiger special, Alabama versus LSU, a look at former Dutchtown star turned Crimson Tide running back Eddie Lacy and what his high school best friend turned collegiate rival thinks of him. We'll head back out to Tiger Stadium for that story and more. Stay with us.
In the first 1 versus 2 matchup in the history of the series, it was Nick Saban who tried to get creative, scripting a play for wideout Marquise Mays to throw deep to tight end Michael Williams. But Tiger safety Eric Reed swipes the ball as the two fall to the ground, preserving the 6-6 tie and keeping the Tide out of the end zone as the Tigers won it in overtime by a field goal.
I mean, they're passionate about their football program, you know, same as, you know, in Alabama, we're passionate about ours too. And, you know, we're going to come out, you know, high energy, and they're going to come out the same, our crowd, their crowd. I mean, it's just going to be a loud, physical, you know, tough game all around.
He's all right, I'll say that. You know, he's one of my good friends growing up. It's always great and it's rare that you get the opportunity to play somebody that you play with in high school, so it's going to be fun.
Eddie Lacy was originally at Helen Cox High School on the West Bank. Katrina moved his family to Dutchtown. He's Alabama's Thunder in their Thunder and Lightning. They have an outstanding freshman in T.J. Yeldon, who is sort of their Lightning. He's from Daphne. Now the key on LSU's side, we've said it multiple times, Zach Mettenberger. We asked Gary Danielson about Mettenberger's development so far.
Joined now by Gary Danielson. And Gary, first of all, let's talk about Zach Mettenberger. How is the offense different with him? We heard a lot that the offense was going to be changed. Sure seems like we're doing a lot of the same things LSU did last year before they got him, yes?
Well, no, I mean, subtly. I mean, there's no more option plays. They are running the ball with power. I think that's number one. That's the biggest similarity. But I think where they're headed with it is more to the offense the way Jarrett Lee was running the offense in the first half of the year. Now, since that Alabama game in the regular season when Jarrett threw that second interception, really this LSU offense hasn't been the same. There was a lack of confidence in the quarterback position the second half of last season. And this year, Zach has not really earned that respect from his coaching staff, and they have really not opened it up. There may be a lot of reasons, injuries on the offensive line. They don't have a great wide receiver this year. But he has to do better in this game because Alabama is too good of a defense just to play one-dimensionally.
What you see in him, we keep hearing he's got all the physical tools, all the ability, just hasn't put it together yet. Is that sort of what you see?
Well, you know, physical tools is probably the last thing you measure in a quarterback. I mean, you know, Matt Flynn got it done here by able to be a smart quarterback. Obviously, he's talented. He's playing in the NFL, but you have to make smart decisions. You have to gain the trust of the coaching staff. You have to have the players believing in you and calling and running the right plays. You know, this is a tough thing to step into. You know, Zach joins the team as the quarterback when this team was actually supposed to be better this season than last season. So everybody said, oh, this LSU team will be better this year. There's been some losses, you know, losses in the secondary, losses in the offensive line. But all said, I think, you know, when you take over the quarterback in an SEC job, you know, when you're at Alabama, Florida, LSU, Georgia, I mean, that's a pressure-packed job, and he walked into a big one, and so far, he has not really taken that step that I think we all thought he had.
How much do you look forward to this kind of game? It's as big as it gets.
It is. You know, I'm blessed in the games I do, but I take a lot of pride in not getting emotionally involved in these games. I think the fan is asking me to provide commentary in the game, and I couldn't tell you what's going on in the tailgating. I don't get caught up in all that. I couldn't find the Grove at Ole Miss if you paid me to find it. I stick to the field and stick to the X's and O's.
All right, thanks, Doug. Juan, keys to the game.
Well, I think it's pretty simple to begin with, Mike. Zach Mettenberger has to have a solid game tonight. It begins with him. 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions this year. Has been very inconsistent. Needs to be better tonight. Pressuring A.J. McCarron. A lot of teams have gotten to him this year. They've sacked him, but haven't caused any turnovers. LSU must get pressure on A.J. McCarron tonight to have any success. And I like to call it the wing special. Last year in this game in Tuscaloosa, Brad Wing punted the ball 73 yards, and that changed the course of the game. Hasn't been great this year, but if it can be above average, LSU might win this game as well.
I tell you, who's going to make the defining play? Eric Reed made the interception last year in the regular season. D'Angelo Peterson made it a couple of years ago. Tight end around. Who will make that defining play? I think that'll decide this game. Also, how will LSU handle Bama's 3-4 defense, and can they score in the red zone?
Have to take some shots.
We're just getting started. Kickoff coming up right here on Channel 4. Following the game, stay with us here on Channel 4 for the LSU Eyewitness Tiger postgame show. LSU and Bama, can they knock off number 1?
I think so. Why not?
We're coming up. Kickoff coming up. Stay with us.